Hello, good evening and welcome. The Finance Minister, Seth Terkper, on Tuesday, March 5th, 2013, presented the government's fiscal policy statement for the year 2013 to Parliament titled Sustaining Confidence in the Future of the Ghanaian Economy. The policy statement outlined in detail government fiscal policies for the year 2013 and 2014. The budget to be presented on Tuesday, November 19th, 2013, how much of the last budget have been met? What should we be looking out for on Tuesday? Now, if you ask me, I would say the 2014 budget to say, hang on to this for the meantime. Now, as soon as I come back, I will introduce my guest. Stay tuned. Hello and welcome back. And today we are talking about 2013 budget review and expectations for the 2014 budget. And sustaining confidence in the future of the Ghanaian economy was the theme that the Finance Minister put on the 2013 budget. So I'm saying that the 2014 one should be, well, hang on to this for the meantime while we struggle and see. I'm going to introduce my guests and then we get talking. They're going to educate us on what to expect in the 2014 budget. To my extreme left is Magnus Ebu Duncan, who's from the economic section of the Swiss Embassy. Magnus, you're welcome. And then to my immediate left is Samson Aklogo, who is head of Data Bank Research. Samson, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Samson, I'll start with you. We'll review the 2013 budget, which we ended up spending 12% more than we were expected to. We were 12% off target, basically. How is that possible?
Yeah, sure. I'm sure by mentioning 12%, it reminds me of the slippages in 2012. That's the election year. Whilst, of course, we have an estimate of the expected deficit in 2013. We'll wait tomorrow for the finance minister to really give the official figures. But clearly, I can say that the expectation is that, again, we're going to miss the 9% commitment that the finance minister announced for this year.
And then I come to you, Magnus. If we're going to miss the 9%, then how are we sustaining confidence?
Actually, at the beginning of the year, you make your projections, yes, and hoping that you get to that. So, if your revenues and then your expenditure does not go the way that you projected, definitely you are not going to achieve your target. That's exactly what it means.
From the track record of the last budget and how we completely missed the boat, one of the major reasons we've gotten is the wage bill. I mean, the average Ghanaian, would you have faith in whatever it is that is going to be read tomorrow? Why should you have any faith?
Yeah, I think that really the budget, in fact, I'm strongly of the view that the budget making process must be looked at carefully, because clearly the experience in 2012 and again in 2013 is that we are getting a lot of fiscal surprises. Fiscal surprises mean that we have a commitment of 9%. Everybody expects the government to keep to that commitment and then actually conduct its activities within the budgetary space, and all of a sudden we come and say that no, it's not maybe the 9%, you're not even doing 10%, but you are doing probably about 11%. Those kind of things really, it's not only the ordinary Ghanaian who may be surprised, but especially it hurts the financial markets. And it's not something that we should continue to allow, because it's really something that actually prevents us from planning and even planning for the long term.
I'll stay with you, but is it not even more frustrating to know that some departments or agencies haven't even submitted accounts for 3 years? And that's the painful part. So at least if they have submitted accounts, you could say, oh, the money we gave them was not enough. But they've been, allocated funds for maybe 3-4 years. That's even more heartbreaking.
Yeah, I think so. The inefficiencies that we clearly have in our public sector, to a large extent, is brought forth by some of the things that you are indicating. And I think that if you have a budget process where people have not even submitted their account for 3 years, it's not only heartbreaking, but I think it's unacceptable. And as a country, these are things that we have to really get people to be responsible for. And we need to do that to not only restore credibility in fiscal policy, but actually get some credibility in the whole governance and public sector management framework, because it's very essential for the private sector to function.
Well, we're going to take a quick break here, and then when we come back, we'll start talking. But as I said, that the theme for this year's budget is, hang on to this for the meantime. Hello and welcome back to the conversation. 2013 budget review and expectations of the 2014 budget. Now, my guest seems to think I'm being mischievous, so they need to prove me wrong. If 2014 budget shouldn't be hang on to this for the meantime. Magnus, apart from hanging on to this for the meantime, what other magic wand can you pull? You are 8.7 billion upside down. Jobs are nowhere, energy is struggling, manufacturing is struggling. What can you pull out of the bag?
Actually, it's not easy. It's not easy at all, because now there should be some stabilization of the economic variables, because inflation is going up. You have a GDP target of, I think, 8.8% for this year, likely not to be achieved. And you look at a whole lot. If you even look at this mass spraying of cocoa, up to now, most areas have not started. Meanwhile, cocoa harvesting had begun already. You see, so there are a lot of problems already this year. So I think that next year's budget I expect something that will restore hope in the ordinary Ghanaian. So I think should be restore hope, because this year things look something people see as hopeless. So the budget should restore hope. So there should be clear evidence that things are being fixed, which I know is not easy. At times you have to go through the hard way before things can go smoothly. So I don't expect any juicy thing in the budget that will be read tomorrow, because already you see VAT rate increased by 2.5%. And then you see, if not the intervention of these labor unions that brought the electricity tariffs down, but that one is a temporary measure.
So we're going to
it will be reviewed, yes, in January, and definitely January it has to go up, because there is a gap which the utility companies want to fill.
Do you find the economy is not proactive and seems to reacting? you increase tariffs, and then labor agitate, and then you reduce it, then you increase VAT, and now they're going to agitate again, so they'll probably come down to 1.5, and they seem to be sort of jumping up and down. I don't know how you feel, but personally, as a Ghanaian, I just feel the economy sort of reacts to, the front pages in the newspapers.
Actually, what you are saying is true, and I don't think I envy the finance minister at all.
No, I don't.
Looking at the situation that the economy is in, you see, you try to fix it this way, then it creates problem here. Try to fix it this way, it creates problem here. So at times you will think that we should all embrace whatever hardships so that we move forward. But in the same way, you see that embracing it will also put people, in living conditions that will not be, good at all. So it's very difficult. It's very difficult. So tomorrow, wait to see what the finance minister has for us.
Let me stay with you because you're an economist. And from a layman point of view, I find the economy being run more like an accounting perspective rather than economic perspective. The reason why I say that, this mobile phone taxing business. Now, I would have thought, flood the market with mobile phones, let everybody get 3-4 mobile phones, because by all means, they'll put a chip in it, use it, exactly, and then tax them. But to tax them so that the thing doesn't even come, I find that more accounting than economic.
Exactly, people will just smuggle it and then bring them through. So, I think if you are taxing for, talking, we should have stayed there than putting tax on the handsets. And now, are they getting the needed revenue from the revenue that they projected to get from these mobile phones? Are they getting it? That's one question that we have to ask. But when it's on talk tax, then I think that way is easier because you cannot say that you are smuggling, you're talking. It has to be captured. You see, it has to be captured. So I think, as you said, the economy has to be managed very well and not like an accounting thing, like as you said. If you are raising revenue here, what will be its repercussion here? You see, that's what we have to look at. And at times to see that things that government, some policies that government will take will be ad hoc based on pressure from, maybe labor or some of these things. So I think government should be very tough in some of its decisions. Very tough on some of its decisions. Let me give you one example. I've gone to about 3 ministries, meetings and others, and you see that now Energy Commission is saying that we should buy energy rating air conditioners, fridges and other 4-star, 5-star. But you go to ministries and then new air conditioners and then fridges bought at 1 star. Why? And because the authority, they are not paying for the electricity bill or what? You see, so government will bring in some policies and then you see that government itself is not following those policies. You see, so these are some of the things that we have to look at, and government has to put its feet down and then look at some of these things, put its house in order. You see, so that the population can follow. Otherwise, some of these things, you cannot hold them.
So one good thing will be cutting expenditure. And expenditure is mainly for, those few people up there. That's where we need to cut expenditure. But then they've developed that champagne taste. So, how do you go and read a budget and cut the expenditure?
Well, when you really look at our public expenditure, I think, let me even start from the premise where the finance minister has done what I think was a good job, in 2012, when we had a budget overrun, which was very glaring and raised a lot of concern. He went back to the table and asked the people at the finance ministry to give him like the key causes of the overrun. So when you see the items that really came out, you see the wage bill, you saw the interest payment, you saw utility price subsidies, you clearly have a sense that the problem, as you know, you're only looking at one side really of the problem. And when it comes to the wage bill, in fact, I agree with you that in fact, conceptually, the size of our public sector is too big. Not only in the top echelon of maybe the presidency and the ministers and the people who work at the presidency, but if you even look at the kind of workforce that the government is carrying on itself, it is clearly too big for the economy, especially the fact that we have a decentralization concept that virtually does not make the districts really generate any substantial revenue for themselves. You realize that we don't have a working model that will sustain the kind of wage run that we spend on the government. And really that is the first one of the critical sources of our problem. Now we have added to that by implementing a single spine. The single spine did not really try to work out to make sure that we have a size of government that we can handle as an economy. So this is really creating even a bigger mess. And clearly, if we have fiscal imbalances coming from these kind of problems, they are very painful to actually solve. And in fact, I can tell even on top of my mind, I can tell you how to solve it. Painful public sector reforms. For example, we have to probably look at even retrenching some of the public sector workers. We have to think of making some of the the quasi-public institutions, like even the Kolebu, like some of even the strong autonomous, the strong secondary schools are bit autonomous. Yeah, we have to find a way of really getting this done. But usually these are reforms that politically people would want to think through before they really get to know what they want to do. On the flip side is to increase revenue. But if you look at the nature of the economy now, increasing revenue is not going to be a short-term issue. It's going to take some time because it's not like people are not really paying taxes. It's more like we have a large net outside the tax bracket, and we also have a lot of loopholes, and then we also have a lot of inefficiency in administration of the taxes itself. So really, we find ourselves in a conundrum that I would personally say that this is not an issue of today. It's an issue that has been compounded by some slippages. But we really need some kind of a serious overhaul of the public sector. And if we have the mindset that government have to create jobs, and we still push the government to create jobs, and we think that by government creating jobs, we have to sustain the public sector wage bill, keep a whole lot of people on the public sector wage bill, what we are really, really doing is that we are destroying the main vehicle that created the taxes for all these people to actually get their salaries. So eventually, that is why it's very difficult to set up a business in Ghana. Extremely difficult because access to capital. In fact, you see a lot of foreigners. It's even easy for foreigners to come with foreign capital and set up businesses. Then Ghanaians, a typical open Ghanaian without any capital accumulation, to even go to the banks or even have access to a venture capital, it is really, really difficult. And even the existing businesses, the operating environment is very challenging. Of course, at the micro level, we also have challenges. Our private sectors lack innovation, but again, if you don't create stable macroeconomy for them, and the government is crowding out the private sector, you would continue to have problems. So I think that clearly the budget making process is reflective of the structural dynamics that we have in the economy. And for us to be able to solve that, we must have a two-way approach. Get a budget right, but also set in economic policy reforms that will take a better look at the entire political economy.
I've got down two questions here, but I don't even know which one to start with you. Can we create a budget that is a year long? In looking at the state of Ghana, if you don't submit a budget that's got like a 10-year plan in it, aren't you wasting our time? If you submit a budget to the nation today, and it hasn't got a 10-year plan that this thing I'm telling you today, it will materialize in 10 years, you're wasting our time.
Because we don't have a national development plan. We don't have a national development agenda. And if you look at the constitutional review, when they went around, 80% wanted a national development a plan. But what happened? Cabinet said no. You see, Cabinet said no. But if you look at policies of different parties that come, it's the same, everybody wants to achieve this. It's the way of achieving it that you have some differences. So I don't understand why we shouldn't have one national agenda. For instance, if there should be this road from Accra to Paga, 4 years where you reach, another person who comes continues. But you see that some projects will still be there, and then new projects, uncompleted ones are there, and then new projects are being commissioned. You see? So then you see some of them going waste, deteriorating for some time before they start again. And are we serious at all? That is what, so I support what you are saying. We have to get one path that we know that Ghana is treading. You see? So if we have something like that, whether MPP, NDC, PPP, you know that there is something. This is the path we all want. Whether they voted for you or not, this road is on the agenda we are constructing. You see, that's what we have to do. We have to see the economy as, for all of us, not that we are coming to look at it for 4 years and then leave it and then go. You see? So if that thing is there, there won't be, you will see that there won't be overruns and others during election nearing period. Because that is it.
Another thing that comes up a lot, they keep hinting on the 2014 is job creation. Now, you are data, so you have data. Now, where are the vacancies and what jobs do you create so that you fill those vacancies? I mean, what's the market looking for?
I think before I even come to that, I think you, to add to what Ebo said, he has a very interesting question. You are of the view that the budget, if you don't have a 10-year maybe budget, then probably should not really maybe come to the country and even say anything. But I just want to add to it is that, you see, the whole essence of the budget, we must not, you must not see the budget more like an accounting framework or maybe something that lays down expenditure and all in revenue. The budget process, in fact, in terms of fiscal policy, is supposed to manage the development plan that we have in a way that, on short-term basis, we don't create instability in the economy. So, yes, the budget will at all times and every day look at like a short-term orientation. But besides the budget, we must have a coherent development plan. And that really is the bigger debate. But again, my experience really about this economy, if I tell you that we don't have that, I think it will not be fair. We have it. In fact, since we have various medium-term plans, yeah, we have been having the GPRS. In fact, even before we have the vision, the vision 2020, and in fact, since the days of Kwame Nkrumah, we have development, 7-year development plan, the vision 2020 revised. So we really do have
who
those.
buys into that vision?
Yeah, but again,
I mean, I'm fairly informed. I'm not the most educated man, but I don't know what's in the GDS, GDA. I'm fairly
but again,
informed.
most of these documents, surprisingly, are very public. Again, broad-based development policy documents tells the basic things that we all want to do.
So what's the dream in it?
In fact, honestly, I quite remember when I was, in fact, if you read let me even put it broadly, if you read some of these development documents, I can tell you
it's really well
that if we implement just even maybe 60% of what is in this document, this country would be this country would just be fine. Because if it's about the documents, the policy, the announcement, the framework, I think that we are really
well ahead
fine.
Of time.
But what is really is the problem is more about, one, we must implement. No, you see, implementation too is very key. But sometimes, if you don't have, there's something that I think, as a country, and even in the broader space of developing countries, we miss. You see, before you even have maybe a development policy and a budget, the first stage is that do you have a political economy that will support all these things that you're doing? Do you have a sound, just like you have to lay a foundation before you start putting things on it. Mm-hmm. But unfortunately,
I'm happy you went there. So then my question then is, we hear job creation, almost every political platform, or this 2014 budget is sort of, where I mean, you're in data bank, where are the vacancies so that we create jobs towards that direction?
Yes, I think, if you look at the economy, certainly on an everyday basis, you can say that this is where the growth is coming from. Mm-hmm. For example, right now we all know in the private sector, somebody can tell you if you want to analyze Ghana's growth, first go to maybe real estate and related businesses. First go to the last year we had construction, mm-hmm. Then we had a bit of tourism. You have the financial, financial services subsector. So clearly, that is that is the kind of area that we see a lot of growth. So the signal then is that these are the areas that are growing, and this is where maybe people should train and have the skills to fit in, mm-hmm. if you want to work with the current model. Mm-hmm. But clearly, that analysis will really be very basic, because what the country needs is broad-based job creation. Job creation not only for people who are maybe highly educated, but people who are also from a middle-level education and people who are really not educated at all. And in doing that, we are creating we are facing a couple of challenges, and I'll look at it in the first one. The first one is that if you look at the expansion of the economy, the rate of expansion, and you look at the rate at which we are creating maybe new graduates into the economy, clearly there is a strong mismatch. The ability for people to get entrepreneurial, at a basic level, is very difficult. Mm-hmm. So there's a big problem there. So graduate unemployment really, as we speak today, in the future, if you look at it, now we have, I think about 10 years ago, we had only about 3 or 4 public universities and a few private universities. But today, I understand we have over 50 or 50 private universities, about 9 public universities, a lot of educational institutions. If the pace at which, your question again, these people are coming into the labor market is not being matched by the assisted job creation, then we have a problem. And I think that on the lower end, which government seems to be trying to solve with the national youth and now the youth employment skills, which is also being given to government. Again, another big problem. I don't think that government is the best person to create jobs in any. In fact, it has been proven over again that government is not. In fact, it's not the best person to create jobs. What we need to do is to create an avenue for the private sector, not for government to really push people to the private sector, mm-hmm. for the private sector to genuinely create wealth and seize the people and then get the people to work. And I think that the ability of the economy to create that again is shortened. For example, the vocational institutions that have been created, where people have to go through the formal training, probably access a venture capital or something and start business, is not working. So right now, government have to be forced to directly come and hold the hand of these people to create jobs. What are we saying? It's going to add to government expenditure. See, and usually when government is spending, it's difficult for people to be accountable for it. And these are some of the difficulties that we are finding ourselves in, and this is where the issue of corruption also comes is coming in. I think that some of these models need to be refined, and the policy conflict here is what must be really looked at. But again, this is also non-political. This is something that as a country we are faced with high employment for unskilled people, and the government is trying to really solve it but we have to do it in a more scientific, with an economic mindset.
Well, I think our appetite for subsidies is coming back to bite us in the face, and somehow we need to create jobs from somewhere so people can earn an income and pay for their own and those subsidies, so that we all live happily ever after. I'm going to take my last break. We're coming straight back. Hello and welcome back to this exciting discussion. The 2013 budget review and expectations of the 2014 budget. But now, joining us on the phone is Dr. Kweku Osafo. Dr. Kweku Osafo. Hello, Doctor. Hello, Doctor, if you can hear me.
Good evening.
Good evening. The discussion...
The line is so faint and so unclear. I don't know whether you hear me.
Yes, I can hear some feedback in there. I don't know if they'll try and call you back. I don't know.
The line is so faint. I can't hear anything.
I would raise my voice a bit and see if it helps. Does it help?
Not much.
Not much. Okay.
There's some scratching noise also.
Yes, I can hear the scratching. Look, can we try and see if we can call him back? Okay, let's try and call him back. Anyway, guys, I wanted to find out, government after government after government, why can't, as a state, we create a job that hires maybe 5,000, 10,000 people? Why can't we create a job? Stitch handkerchief, make a pen, chaliwote, eraser, sharpener, an iron, fan, something. Just, I don't want a rocket, I don't want a car, but why can't we? I think I got Doctor on the phone. Hello, Doctor.
Yeah.
Any better now? I think we have to do the crackling song, but can you hear me now?
It's better now, yeah.
Very good. Doc, we are looking forward to the 2014 budget. Yeah. And we're wondering, if the finance minister is going to pull a magic wand and make things better, or if you're going to make do. But you are the expert.
Yeah. So I think he's going to try his best to undertake some measures which will improve the situation. I don't think any minister in recent times has faced such challenges in this economy. All the problems of Hydra, head, gigantic, issues, the challenge of the single spine, budgetary allocation to pay salaries of public servants, which originally was estimated at 35%, is now about 70 or even more. And how do you find money to pay this? And budget deficit has risen. The debt ratio of Ghana is now about 43-44% of GDP. Public outcry about utilities, electricity, water, name it. And leakages in the economy, judgment debts, and money being thrown about. This is, I think, one of the most challenging years.
Doctor, let me put a question to you that I put to my guest in the studio. Is, as a state, what is so difficult in creating a job that hires maybe 5, 10, 20,000 people? I.e., if we stitch handkerchiefs, towels, chaliwote, a fan, an iron, a pen. Why can't, as a state, we have, gradually, make some of these things locally?
Yeah, I think it is a very important question because, like I've already always said on this TV, when you have a country which imports virtually everything, then the problems are already created. You have an economy where virtually everything is imported. You are creating jobs for the outside market and depriving your country, the opportunity to have jobs. But it's all part of the system, how efficient the system operates, because you have so many microfinance companies and so on. But again, it comes back to the general status of the economy, high interest rates, and difficulties in repayment of loans by borrowers. The banking system is not operating efficiently because of these high interest rates, and banks are reluctant, to come down to giving loans to the small businesses and so on and so forth. So the problem is multifaceted, and I think government planners have to sit down and do their homework. The public service and the civil service is not that efficient. My travels around the world and the study of many economies show that even for the private sector to be efficient, the public and the civil servant sector have to be extraordinarily efficient. You take the case of Singapore, Malaysia, and all the countries which have made it. They have an efficient public sector system which supports the private sector. Mm-hmm. If the two cannot cooperate, and problems are created by the public sector for the private sector, no matter how much money you pump to the private sector, the support system from the public sector is not going to help to run an efficient economy.
Doctor, let me come in here and be a bit radical. If I gave you the post of finance minister and you have to turn up tomorrow, what at least two things can you say, look, at least these two things I will add or I will chop off to make a difference?
There's no such easy solution to say one or two things will work. Because first of all, you have to find a way to bring interest rates down. You have to find a way to discourage and encourage export-orientedness type of economy. Mm-hmm. Find a way to really stop the mass importation of virtually everything. And there are no easy answers because the mindset is also very important.
Yeah.
The mindset of the government and the public service, the mindset of the whole economy, which sees goods manufactured in our country as inferior as opposed to goods that are imported from abroad. So it's a systematic, well-organized, orchestrated strategies by the government with a highly efficient civil and public service which has to run some of these projects. It's not that easy. Mm-hmm. But the beginning is that you have to really make the public service efficient. You have to be able to control the amount, the interest rate in the system, which is now so much. The average interest rate when people borrow is around 50 when they add all the interest. The nominal which they publish is just not the norm. Mm-hmm. So these are the issues of the game. But above all, you have to have efficiency in this whole service and the public service. Government has to be clear. Government has to seal the leakages in the system because you pay civil service, public service, and they are the ones who are virtually wrecking the economy in a way with all the judgment debts and all the things that go on. The leakages in the system, you don't control your foreign sector with taxes and, how much you earn from your natural resources. You are destroying your gold sector, your environment, and so on. The problems are multi, hydra type of problems. So we need to give ourselves time. Ghanaians also have to be part of the solution problem because they do all the bad things and then at the end of the day they put it all on the government. Mm-hmm. So you need to sit down, radically bring all minds together and say this is where we are going and how we get there. You look at the public sector, you look at housing sector. We are almost all living in ghettos. What is the housing sector? How do we empower Ghanaians to build houses? Houses create a whole lot of jobs. The similarities to having a public sector with private sector involvement is key to some of the developments of most of the countries. You go to Singapore, 87% of the people are housed by the government. It's very efficient. They collect taxes. They use it to build houses for the people. The people become productive because they have a safe place, a small 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom to put their heads. The transportation system has to be developed efficiently. There's this myth that the private sector can all solve the problem. No, in a developing transformational economy, you need the government to be efficient and lead the sector. And as you go along, see these sectors to the private sector to be able to operate efficiently.
Doc, thank you very much.
If you abandon that role as a government, you are not going to find any solution.
Thank you very much, Doc. Thanks for that contribution. I will come to the studio, but basically you don't wish to be the finance minister. You don't wish to be the finance minister, but I'll put the same question to you. Is there any two things that you say, listen, even though there's no magic one, as for these two things, I would, make the theme of my budget? What would have been your theme?
Infrastructure development will be one, yes, because if you don't also develop that one, you cannot, the economy cannot grow, because whatever you do have to be hinged on good infrastructure. And then another thing that I want to also do is that I'll make it a policy that that government is the largest consumer. So government tries and then buy them locally, made in Ghana goods.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
That's a good one. Something, what would be your...
Yeah, I think that to add to, it's quite... anytime I do support a lot of the good, especially capital-oriented expenditure that people talk about, good infrastructure, housing. But I think the immediate thing really as a country is that we must first correct, the fiscal slippages. It's important that when you want to build this infrastructure, especially the social ones, you don't do that on excessive borrowing. So first, let's tidy up the budget. Let's make sure that we create a fiscal space. We have some amount of money left to do some of these things that we want to do. When we get that straight, then the public sector can lead the way. Then we also have the private sector, because interest rate, immediately we are able to spend what we have. And government borrowing really comes to a very rationalized level. We don't put pressure on government to do everything, build everything in the country in a day. Interest rates will certainly, very important, come down. We could see inflation. If things are properly done, inflation could also be a bit manageable. So it's not only the government that is doing it, but we have the private sector also coming in. So really, honestly, I don't know, the government certainly have to lead the way, but the culture of running a very big government and getting to be borrowing every day heavily and getting interest rate even on money market instrument at 19-20%, certainly it's not really going to help us in any way, even if we have the big plans.
If I were the finance minister, I would put all our money into national identification. Everybody's going to get one identification before I even pay for school fees. And once I get that going, I think we can start from somewhere. That's what I would have done. It would be based on data collection and national identification. Until that, everything else will be put on hold. It's easier said than done, isn't it? Well, the discussion has been 2013 budget review and expectations of 2014, but we all wait and see what is going to come out of the bag. Magnus and Samson, thank you very much for joining this conversation. But as I say, tomorrow we'll be back to do it all over again. Have a good evening.